Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome, Renegades.
Welcome. We have a special guest again this week, and I am so excited to pick his brain. I feel like our guest is on the cutting edge of technology and health for everyone. I'm so excited for the questions, and I think you listeners will love this one.
Absolutely. So welcome to the podcast, Ari Tulla. Now, I understand some of what we're going to be talking about today is your story and how you came to be. And Ari is an angel investor and an advisor for several, like Kay said, kind of cutting edge tech companies, especially companies that are involved with biohacking like Aura. And I always wear my Aura ring. Yes. And I've talked about it in several of our podcast episodes. So I'm really excited to have you on today because, yeah, we love the idea of biohacking. And I especially love the idea of bringing that to the masses. So I think you're really on the cutting edge of that. And now you have, it's a supplement company, Elo, that's focused on bringing specific nutrients to people. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've been working in the tech for a long time. Started in the late 90s, and that was of course a different world when the websites were just about to be invented, and we didn't really have smartphones. And remember the old great time when you don't have a thing blinking in your pocket, every 5 minutes.
Yes,
you
it was
were
nice.
not addicted to scrolling your feed with your thumb, bloody for 5 hours a day.
Yes,
there was a world like that not long ago, and we
Sounds
could tell the
free.
kids about it.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, it's just interesting to I'm from Finland, the small country in Northern Europe, and not from the southern part of Finland, but from the northern part of Finland, that is on the same level of as maybe Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
And if you've been there, it's like there are polar bears and snow and darkness and
Yes.
light in the summer. So very bipolar world to grow up. And I've been slowly creeping into the southward, and now today I'm living in California, in San Francisco. So I kind of saved myself from the darkness in the winter.
Yes, you've migrated for sure.
We're only halfway there. We need to get further south, lady. Yeah.
So slowly crawling to the equator, I hope, in the end.
Yes, yes.
But I was really lucky as a like you ask about, it's always really interesting to talk about the what, but I always prefer the why.
Yeah.
Because we can all go and read the resume on the LinkedIn or whatever, but often we don't know what's behind people, what are the motivations people have, and why do they do what they do, because we all have a good reason.
Yeah.
Maybe we lie to ourselves, but at least we have a reason to do what we do. And you guys have a great reason to do a podcast, and you do great work at it. So I mean, we all have our stories, and I think mine is maybe a bit unique in a sense that I came from this little small town in Finland, and ended up in the end building companies in the Silicon Valley. And I had a dream as a kid to be a hockey player. Every Finn, ice hockey is like the thing in the football in Finland. You have half a year of the year you have snow on the ground and ice, so you can easily skate to school almost. So it's pretty easy.
That's awesome.
But I played hockey for my youth, and really wanted to be a NHL player. And maybe I'm just an inch too short, and maybe not as clever as I hoped. And a few of my teammates, they ended up going to play in the Canada and the US, and I was very envious about them. And I decided then that maybe my path is to go study and try to do different things. And in the end, I ended up, play in the NHL of the startups in the Silicon Valley in San Francisco. And it's been a really fun journey. And I'm really, blessed about, some people who helped me along the way, especially my parents who introduced me to, computers when I was very young, maybe 6 years old in the early 80s, when people didn't really know what a computer is.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get connected to the web, internet, before it was called internet in mid-90s.
Yeah.
And that really made me who I am today, because, you were able to do things as a kid that your parents had no idea of.
Right.
And I was making money by playing video games in mid-90s. I was one of the first people in the world to do that. And and I became one of the top players in the world in some of the early games on the online world, kind of like World of Warcraft or what are the games today that are similar. Those were games with no graphics.
Yes.
But there
Yeah.
were, 30,000 people playing the games, and I met a lot of people that are still my good friends today, and these people ended up building companies and gaming companies, and be the leaders of the innovation in this field that just happened to happen when I was at the right age.
Yeah, right.
Wow. My son would love you. I'm going to have him see your face.
I was going to say my husband would love you.
Yeah.
all
That's
the
cool.
leading tech people, I think, started out with those early video games. That's true.
Yeah.
But it was the time, and today it's different. Like today it's going to be then AI and we as parents today, I don't think I don't think I give credit for my children who are growing up now that they will do stuff that I don't understand, and I
Yeah.
might be saying that no, I mean like, are you sure that's a good idea? Why don't we go camping? But my parents gave me the freedom, and when I was high school, I played video games, and I was involved in these online endeavors maybe 10 hours a day, and barely went to school. And I ended up pretty well in the end.
You did pretty good for yourself.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's not about that, and that's a good reminder, I think, for me at least, when I have my kids growing up, that it's not they are not a reflection of me. They are their own beings, and let them pave their own way to the world, and let them teach me about the new world. So that's kind of how I try to roll. But it's tough because you have your own convictions and your own point of view on things.
Okay, I have a question.
That's pure
itching.
wisdom.
Yeah, I have a question itching in my soul. What did your parents do for a living? I'm just curious.
My father is a research scientist, and he worked mainly on construction side, like for example, how to build skyscrapers in a permafrost in Hokkaido. So we lived in Japan at one point, for example, when I was a kid, and that's very unique that you are crawling in this sort of a basement of a skyscraper that is built on ball bearings, so it won't collapse in an earthquake.
Yeah.
So a bit different than maybe most. But my mom was a teacher for a long time, so they had long holidays, maybe 2 months every year, and we never bought a new car. We went to travel, so I visited 50 countries before I was maybe 15 years old.
Amazing.
So pretty unique upbringing in a way that you get to see the world, and you get to live in different countries a little bit, and exposed to different cultures at a young age. So I mean, and also giving me kind of the opportunities to do things I loved. So it was really, I mean, they did great work. I hope to be as good of a parent as they were.
Well, so far your perspective sounds like you will be. I think I just gleaned a lot of wisdom from that 1 minute discussion about letting your children be their own people and letting them teach you. And like you said, they're not necessarily a reflection of you. They're a reflection of who they're meant to be, and they're going to teach us how to live in their new world, and it's their world too. So
Super
I love
wise.
that. So tell me, how did you end up then kind of moving into investing in some of those more health-based companies? What drove that?
Yeah, what's your
pathway?
health side? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I was really like, and I still love the idea that we have new ideas that are popping up from nowhere, like now the ChatGPT or the AI. And of course, they've been in development for 20 years, but for most people, they happened yesterday and they are new. I've been working on those for a long time, so it wasn't so sudden, but it was sudden, the scale and magnitude when these things pop up. Same with the smartphones. So I was really lucky also because I wanted to work, in a global roles, and Finland is a very small country. And that time, when I was growing up, it was not as easy to go study in, let's say, Stanford or, wherever. Like today you can do that, but then it was difficult. So I wanted to kind of work in a global business. So I ended up working at Nokia, the Finnish cell phone company that, was the biggest company in the world for a moment when I started there in valuation of companies. And what they did, they invented kind of the cell phone to some extent, and then they built the first smartphone. That was they didn't call it smartphone, they called it mobile computer, or we call it mobile computer. But it was a device you can take photos and video and all these things. And one of the things I was working on that side was on the gaming, like how do we build mobile games. So I worked very closely with some companies like Rovio, the Angry Birds, that some people might have seen, and I think I'm the first person who saw the game before anyone outside the company who built it. And and they were developing games for us, my team. And I don't think we played the game, and we were like, this is pretty good. But I had no idea that there would be 2 billion people playing the game 10
Angry
years later.
Birds.
Yeah, and we didn't buy the game. We let them publish it themselves, and that made that company, big company. They are public now. They have made movies and so forth. So
Yeah.
it was really wonderful to see my friends, to build build this game. So I kind of was involved in that world. And one thing we did that kind of let me think about healthcare at that time quite a bit was that we were building the one of the first smartphones. This is before iPhone and Android, and there was a small chip inside the phone that tilted the photos from portrait to landscape automatically. You remember it was difficult before that.
Yeah.
You took a photo, you had to tilt them all around. So there was this chip that basically was knowing whether you are landscape or portrait, a motion sensing chip. And some of the people, in Nokia, they were looking at that and they were like, this looks like a really capable thing. And they are clever, engineers. So they were building different things on top of it. And they realized that you can build a step counter on that chip. So we basically built the first ever step counter. And the team came up with the idea of 10,000 steps that, I think billions of people do today.
Yep.
Right.
It was just this random study they found in Japan that, told that 10,000 steps might be the right amount. And that became it became a common law.
Yeah.
I know the person who came up with that idea. And there was not like a fundamental research behind it. But that was the idea that, people started to use the phones. And we saw when we put that there was this app like long time ago, 15, 20 years ago, where it's on automatically. And if you walk 10,000 steps, it will say like da or something. You can see the numbers.
Yeah.
And suddenly, millions and millions of people are using the app every day.
Yeah.
And they talk about it in, people talk about it on TV. There's no Twitter yet, but, people talk about it on media. And we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, we just did this thing. And then, it became this massive movement.
Right.
And then, companies started to build like Fitbit and others came in and built, systems around it. So I learned that, there's games, and I've been building games for a long time. So I was like, there's a game outside of the game in a way. You are gamifying the world around you by doing these things. And that was me a big epiphany in a way that, wow, like you can actually get people to move, people to be healthier by building this simple game. It was just one thing. It was like calculating your steps and giving you a score.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was an eye-opening moment that, I think we can use the video games and the idea of playing into something more fundamental. And after that, I've been involved in many cases where we use gaming as a part of education, for example. I'm involved in a company that is educating and teaching kids to learn to play a guitar or an instrument. And I don't know, 50 million people have now learned to play guitar, for example, with the system they built.
Cool.
And that's a really big impact because if you learn to play guitar or piano, it has a fundamental impact on your brain plasticity. You won't have, maybe Alzheimer's or dementia at old age. It's like learning another language. You make your brain better at coping with old age. So those are kind of interesting things. But then I think, it's long story short, I think, the reason why I really got into healthcare was more close to my heart. So my girlfriend, now wife today, she had a thyroid tumor in her neck about 22 years ago. So there was a fist-sized lump in her neck out of nowhere. She was a 20-plus-year-old healthy athletic woman and never had any health issues before. So suddenly you end up, in this moment that you think about, like, what does it mean? Like, we had to be in an operation table, a pretty complicated operation to take it out. Luckily, there was no tumors beyond that. But it made us think about mortality, made us think about, health in a very different way. Because normally when you're 20-something, you think about, like, where do we go party or what are we going to do on a weekend?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't think about these things. And what happened, because they took other thyroid part out, she ended up in these complicated hormonal imbalances. These things that, many women are having, especially that, like autoimmune and issues that are very complicated to treat. We really don't know. We don't have a pill for them even today. And it made it impossible for us to have a family ever. And that's a tough thing to hear when you found love of your life and you're thinking about the future together. And at that young age we were like, well, I mean, we were not that worried about it because we are so young. We haven't plan to, have a kid then and there.
Right.
But then over the next 10 years, we spent a lot of our time on trying to find a resolution. We went to the Western medicine.
Yep.
We learned about mindfulness and the impact of your body and hormones. And in the end, we realized that food, we had a really good doctor in the US who was helping us to kind of guiding us through and talking about the way inflammation happens in our body because of the food you eat. And we cut, most of the things that are inflammation related, like carbs and some meat and so forth. And basically, her body was able to heal itself. After a decade,
Amazing.
we finally, we were like, we are good to go. And then, of course, we realized that, we were not fully compatible from the sperm and the egg perspective. We had to go to IVF in the end. And that worked on a first go. It was a miracle in a way. And then we
absolutely.
had a totally unrelated issue that then our first son died.
Oh.
Which is like, it's unbelievable that you go through this whole most for this long, and then this happens in the end. And today, we have two healthy kids today. So I mean, we are feeling good about it. But it was a really tough time in a way, and we decided both at that moment that like fuck, what are we gonna do? Like, you spent. We had a great careers. We had really great lives, but we had this one hope that you have a family, and then this happened at the end, like, and it wasn't really anyone's fault.
Right.
So you are like, what to do about it? And we decided we sold all basically our possessions, more or less, like our house or whatever, and built this sort of a small investment fund. We started to invest in healthcare companies, that are making the world a better place. And it was a small amount of money, like bigger scheme of things, but something we felt good about. And then also I started a healthcare company called Better Doctor. I left the video game world and the kind of the app world, and the idea was to help people find a doctor, because we had a hard time finding our own doctor, and maybe we had some wrong people helping us along the way. That's why what happened.
Yeah.
And my wife actually, she went to study again a little bit, and she became in the end a KonMari consultant, worked with Marie Kondo.
Oh, wow.
And so very different. She was in the politics and doing like big corporate stuff before.
Yeah.
So we changed our life completely because of that incident about 12, 13 years ago. And and I decided to spend 30 years of my life, but I have left at least like running companies or whatnot, to focus on investing in healthcare and these companies, and also building healthcare companies. And now I'm doing the third one now myself, and it's been a great journey. And I have realized over the years that I spoke to thousands of people about the struggle of finding right care.
Yeah.
And now I want to spend the next decade talking about, like, how do we fix the basic issues like the nutrition today, because we all know what we should eat, but none of us are doing the right thing, and we are getting heavier, sicker. Our life expectancy is declining now for the first time ever, except maybe Second World War and Black Death in Europe. But it's a very odd moment that we kind of know what to do. We have access to everything, but we are killing ourselves by not moving enough, being too stressed, and not eating right.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. What an incredible story.
What a story. I know I need to take that all in. You've had an incredible life, and high highs and low lows.
Yeah.
Wow.
And kind of underlying it all is this theme of wanting to make the world a better place. I mean, how incredible that you turned what was a really devastating experience into something that drove you to improve the healthcare system for other people. And I do think, the healthcare system we have now, if we can even really call it the healthcare system, at least in the United States, it needs a lot of help. And it's more of a sick care system at this point. And so I love the idea of the better doctor, of helping people find the doctors who can really help them, who are compatible with them. I know my husband and I struggled to conceive our child. It took us 3 years, and we went through a lot of doctors too in that time period that didn't really fit with us or help us with our goals. So I think it's really a beautiful thing that you created something to help people with that process too.
Yes,
finding a doctor.
Yeah, I'm so impressed with the way that you go about life, that when there's a tragedy or a problem and you're like, I want to help others. I want to build something huge that can impact everyone for the better. That's incredible and really admirable. So thank you for being you.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
And even when you were in the video game world, it was all about making people's lives better.
Yeah.
Whether it was through enrichment and helping their brain develop, or through getting them to get up off the couch and move. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. How crazy, because I check my steps every day, and how crazy that like you're a part of that. Like what a wild world we live in.
Yeah, right. I'm just thinking of how foundational that is. I remember getting a Fitbit for the first time when I was like, I don't remember how old I was, in my early 20s, and being able to do the competitions with friends, and how it would just motivate you beyond belief. It might be the end of the day and somebody else is 5,000 steps ahead of you. And so then you get up and you go for a couple of laps around the block because you want to pass that person.
Yes.
Wow, it definitely got me moving. So
So good.
So cool that you were part of the foundations that created systems like that really aimed at getting people moving. And so today you're one of your companies is Elo, and so tell us a little bit about that and what services that company offers, and how that applies to people.
Yeah, so I had an idea about, I don't know, 12 years ago when I was starting to Better Doctor. We had another idea that we called social food. And we were debating with my co-founder whether we build this Doctor Finder thing. I mean, we didn't really know much about healthcare. I was a super user, but I didn't know how it works.
Sure.
I didn't know how to make money on a service like that.
Right.
We didn't really know many doctors beyond our patient relationship that I had.
Right.
And the other idea was about how do we help people, buy right type of things for them. Right. When you go to the store, think about this is the time before we had like Instacart, before we had Uber Eats, before we had DoorDash. You had to actually walk to a store, to buy food. You can click a button to get the food home. That's the world that some people, the old people are telling about. We have forgotten it almost already. But anyway, like the idea was that you had these early phones that you had a camera, and you could point them into barcode or QR code, and it would tell you whether this is traffic light, green, yellow, red. Oh. And we built the prototype of that, and we got the data together, so you kind of know. And then you could build like, I want to be a vegan, I want to be, this type of diet, whatever. So I can always kind of look at it. I have these allergies, I don't automatically knowing, but it felt too clunky.
Yeah, sure.
And there are multiple companies who did that, and I think some people might even use them today. They're kind of useful, but they are not really that valuable because too much work to go, like pointing your phone into every product you buy. Right. People have no time to do that.
Sure.
So we decided to sell the idea because the time wasn't really yet ready.
Yeah, it's a cool concept.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, I think. And when we sold then the Better Doctor later and run another company in the space of access to care in a more macro sense, helping the big health insurance companies, government to do better deals for Medicare, Medicaid. And helping like maybe 100, 200 million people a year accessing doctors better. So that was kind of a game we had done already. We spent 10 years in it. We took a year off, and then we decided, like with the same co-founder team, more or less, that what we're going to do next. And it felt now like the right time to take that old idea back and think about it more. And we realized that the world was about to change. This is before COVID, so we were again like very different world, 3 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
Where we found out that people have more and more devices like the Apple Watch or the Fitbit or whatnot. So we're collecting more data about the body, and we also have scales at home like blood pressure meters. The glucose monitors are popping up now more and more. So we are collecting data, and it won't take a long time before the Apple Watch, for example, it can collect not only your steps and your heart rate and sleep, but also your blood pressure and your glucose monitor. So those are going to be the critical things that are telling us what food actually is good for you, what is impacting your body in a certain way, and not to do that once a year by blood work, but to do it real time.
Cool.
And the second thing we realized that and believed that the blood testing and the whole idea of biomarker testing. I mean, you can take like a poop test or urine test or blood test or hair follicle or saliva. We can use the stuff from our body and we can analyze it, and we can learn awfully a lot about us. And that was usually in a way that you have to walk to a lab and visit the lab and they take your blood, whatever, big needles, whatever. And now it's easier. You can take your poop and put it in the bag. You can put some urine into some thing and send it out, or you can take a couple of drops of blood and send it out to the lab. That's now working pretty well, and we think and we believe still today that is changing the world completely, because now we're starting to collect this stuff not once a year, maybe once in 5 years, but every maybe quarter.
Right.
And in a moment, it will be happening in a way that you can actually do it at home. Like we all have done. This is before COVID,
Right.
but now we have done the nose swab and we get the results then and there.
Yeah.
That was only thing we had before. Think about was basically pregnancy test.
Yeah.
That
Right.
was at home, and that's a big deal, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna see this happening in the next decade in a way that you can do almost all the testing at home. You don't need to leave. The price will be, not $100, but $20. And
That'd
it will be
amazing.
happening within 5 minutes, not in a week.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen soon. And it will change again the way how we can take health into our own hands without huge cost or huge, time sunk. And then the last one that, we firmly believed, and, I know some of the people who were involved in the early, Uber and DoorDash and others. And I know that they were very bullish about this, that, everybody will buy food at home. And right now, I think the Instacart is going public right now. So we have one of the companies now going there. But, it really makes sense that, I don't want to walk to a grocery store. I don't want to always walk to a restaurant and take home. But I can order it to home. And we believe that will be a big thing. And of course, with the COVID, it went from like 10%
Right.
to half the people have now tried and used them all
Right.
the time. It became a huge business. Like I think the Uber is now the food side is bigger than the ride business.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's a big business. So those are the ideas that we were thinking. And then we were like, okay, now we have more data about the human health. We now know, like my wife's case, that certain type of diet can help you to maybe reverse a chronic condition like she had in autoimmune side.
Right.
Same as with diabetes, like type 2 diabetes, you can reverse by food. There's a
Right.
company called Verda Health that we are lucky to be investors in, that are helping now hundreds of thousands of people to reverse a condition that is irreversible by doctors,
Right.
Wow.
by
Yeah.
food. Unbelievable. Like, I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
so how many more things we can do? And I think we're going to find now in the next 20 years, when we get more information about our bodies with all these different devices, these different tests, that we're going to find out that we can do a lot more.
Yeah.
So the idea with Elo is just this simple idea: to take data from your body and use AI to find out what is the science saying, what would be the right thing for you to do. And then, of course, understanding your goals, what you have. Like, I want to be highly performant, maybe on the bike or the wall or whatever. Somebody else wants to lose a couple pounds. Somebody else wants to live a long time. So how do we build the right model of nutrition for them and delivering that to their homes? And like you said in the beginning, we started with supplements. So we do customized, personalized supplements based on blood work. We now also do a powder that is, could be protein, carbohydrates. It could also be electrolytes and supplements. Some people don't like to take pills, so they would rather take the powder. And I do it every morning, for example, if I'm fasting. And over time, we're going to go more and more into food. So we're going to probably work with the food delivery companies like groceries and the meals in a moment. But the idea is to build this model. And it's been really interesting to test maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people now and understand what their biometric tell us. These are often healthy people like us here. And many of them have issues on yellow and red that they did not know about. I had few. And I was living like a monk, many people say.
Yeah.
Yet I was a vegan. I was, I trained 20 hours a week. I'm performing better than 99.9% of my age group.
Yeah.
And still, my vitamin D was like way too low. My iron was way too high, and my B12 was way too low.
Yeah.
And those were able to we fixed them with the supplements. And I had never taken a supplement in my life before. And I'm not a supplement believer in a sense. People are really about it's a one thing in a one arrow in a quiver for me.
Yeah.
But it felt like really interesting that I felt different after we fixed those issues. And I was like, wow, I mean, I didn't know that. That's interesting. And we see that same happening to most people who come into Elo today.
Wow, that is incredible.
Like, sign me up.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's
thinking.
amazing.
And I like the idea that, your hope is to make it more available to the masses and more affordable. Like you said, right now I've done some lab work at home. I've done food sensitivity testing where you do a blood spot for that. I've done hormone testing where you can do like urine testing for that. But it is so expensive. I mean, I think the food sensitivity test was probably about $300. The hormone test was close to $500. I mean, it is, and for me as a nutritionist, when I'm asking my clients to do tests like that, it's hard because it's a pretty solid investment. And when you are in the health industry, it's worth the investment into your health, right? There's nothing that's worth more than your health. And so from my eyes, it's absolutely worth paying the money to gain that data about my body. But for a lot of people, they don't have that mindset yet. And it takes time to get there. I mean, I went to school for nutrition. So, I've spent a lot of time learning about how critical nutrition is for the body. But most of the clients I'm seeing, they aren't starting from that place of really understanding how critical nutrition is to their health. And mostly they're coming to see me because they've been frustrated
Because they don't feel good.
And they're not getting results with the standard conventional medical care. And so I love the idea of making those tests more affordable, where it's a lot easier to get somebody to be open to the idea of, hey, take this $20 blood test or this $50 blood test instead of, hey, spend the next 3 weeks collecting this data. You're going to have to collect your urine every morning for the next 3 weeks, and then it's going to cost you $500. So I really love the idea behind that. Wow, what a concept.
I know. That's incredible. So does your company, you're in the bio-testing area, and then are you in cahoots with someone for the supplement creation, or are you both or part, or what's that? And also, is the powder, is there no sugar in it? And what do you use to sweeten it? Does it taste good? I have so many questions.
So to unroll that, I think a great point that you both kind of alluded a little bit here is that the data itself, like we talk about steps even, they're very understandable. But the point that I said, 10,000 steps was maybe this sort of a idea that somebody just came up with that might not have any. I mean, it's not going to be bad if you do take, but is it 5,900 for you? We don't know.
Right. Pretty arbitrary. Yeah.
But the same applies to a lot of this data that we can do testing, and then we get the results. Often we don't know what to do about the data.
Right.
We don't know what. I mean, there's often, like, even if you go to the doctor, you often get the numbers. I don't think you really walk away often knowing exactly what does it mean. What can I do about this?
Right.
Yes, I mean, if you have something on red, as many people have, then the doctor will give them pills.
Yeah.
But the doctor will not be able to tell what to do if you're on the yellow. And most healthcare, sick care system today, we have green and we have red.
Yeah.
How bizarre is it that, I go to my healthcare provider, Kaiser Permanente here in the Bay Area, which is one of the best systems, I think, in the world in many ways. And I walk in there, and they do my testing. I do my testing every quarter, and suddenly my A1C, my blood sugar lung value is 5.8.
Wow.
That was 2 years ago, and the value of the threshold was changed from 5.9 to 5.8 or something, or 5.7, I think.
Yeah.
That if you're 5.7 or 8, then you become pre-diabetic.
Right.
Okay, they have 10 values on the past years that are 5.5, 5.6. And this was clearly an off value. I had done the Elo test week before, it was 5.5. So because the off value, I still have a medical record telling that I'm pre-diabetic.
Right, sure.
And they have that back data. And they fully well know that, there can be, 15, 20% error in some of the blood tests. So they have a bad reading. And that's why I'm now labeled. And then I go meet my doctor, and the doctor is like laughing because we know each other well, and he knows what I do. And he was like, well, like based on this, I would need to kind of give you like a reading manual, what to do as a pre-diabetic, and maybe talk about medication.
Right.
And he was like, that's silly because I know that, you have a glucose monitor on, and your glucose is never going over 90. You just happen to be a person that has a high A1C level as a default. I've had it for all my life.
Yeah, how interesting.
So that was like the discussion, and this is the dilemma we have in healthcare or sick care. We always label people. Many of the people who are listening, probably, and many of the people you work with are they come to you because suddenly the doctor told them that, hey, now you're going to have statin, or now you need to go and do this and that and that. And people unless they don't want to do it, or maybe they take the statin and they don't feel great about it. There are many people who don't love the feeling after they take the statin.
Right.
So that is the challenge in a way. The yellow area is missing. And that's what we spent about 2 years now at Elo to define what is the yellow area for different biomarkers, for example. And what can you do about it so you will not get into the red zone. And that's just the one kind of aspect that I think, we have learned that, is very fundamental. And the other point about the information and how do we give the data, how do we make you believe? So we started in the beginning, and we had no plan to do this, but over the years, we added a team of dietitians who work with every customer one-on-one, and you have access to them on the phone. So there's a team of people like you who are helping everybody one-on-one, and you can hop on a Zoom if you want like this and have a dialogue with them. And that has been a big help, I think, for many people, because people need a real person. They need accountability. And what you bring to the game always is going to be the accountability. And of course, your challenge is that, you have people that, you are helping, but you don't have enough time with them.
Right.
You would love to meet them every week, but maybe you meet them every, few months. And often, people relapse and they do the wrong thing. But if you could help them all the time and you would have an access to somebody daily, that would make a huge difference. So what are we hoping to do? And this is something that one of these things that we didn't know in the beginning, but now as we have this new revolution happening with AI, we are hoping to, work with other companies to develop the kind of the nutritionist in a bot or nurse in a bot that can help people then 24/7, be there with you all day long. Wow. And we all know that would be a fundamental difference in adherence and outcomes.
That feedback.
And I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not saying that everybody who does what you do will be unemployed, but I'm just saying that I think if we could help, because I looked at the data, there are only so many people who do who are nutritionists or dietitians and who work with people. Most people have never met a person like you, not even to talk to one. And the people who you normally get to talk to are often in a hospital setting, people who are already very sick, and they are maybe beyond help. Or people like you who are helping, people who are willing to, they're looking for you. But that's very few people. And of course, the price again is an inhibitor because it's expensive. So think about if we could get, your knowledge and your guidance to 200 million people today who are overweight, for example, how big of an impact we could have into the world, not only in the US, but globally. We talk about 2 billion people today, or 3 billion people.
Yeah.
Half the population in the world. So that's kind of the hope that, I think tech could, again, it could multiply the impact by a million times.
Right.
And I'm hopeful that will happen, because that could be one, small piece of fixing this problem we have today, which is the metabolic syndrome that, everybody are dying younger than the parents even. So that's not good.
Yeah, I look forward to a future that puts me out of business. That's that's what I always tell my clients, right? I mean, that's part of why I started the podcast, was to have widespread effects, as opposed to, I love helping people one-on-one, but what I was feeling is I see so many of the same problems over and over and over again.
Yes.
And if I could help spread the information on a larger scale, and maybe I don't...
Just the basics.
I'm not meeting with all of our listeners, right? There's like 1,000 people listening in. But I'm helping and spreading that information. So I look forward to the day when people don't have to come and see me anymore, because they're informed.
Owning their own,
They're informed, and they've taken charge of their own health, and they already know what to do, and they know how to, for it just to be normal and part of the normal healthcare system. I'm imagining a future where people get the blood tests they need on a regular basis, get the dietary guidance they need on a regular basis. I would love to not have any work, because it would mean that people are finally getting healthy.
Yeah.
So what are some of the I'm sure there's a lot, but what are some of the main biomarkers that you guys look out for at Elo? What kind of tests are you doing, and how do those biomarkers, how do they help give people information about their bodies?
Yeah.
So the testing is a one item that we think is fundamentally important, but again, it can be too difficult to do for everybody. Some people they're afraid of needles. They really don't like doing it more than one time, or even not even that.
Right.
So we started in the beginning where we had we mandated the blood test in the beginning, and then we had to consult with the dietitian, and then we gave you products. And that felt like an interesting model to learn. But over time, we found out that it's too difficult for people to do that. Not everybody wants to have the test. Maybe it's cost inhibitive, whatever.
Yeah.
So now what we do, we have enough data that we built an assessment we can do with people online that we get pretty close to the same results.
Wow.
And,
Cool.
and they can get the product directly without the test. And if they want to do testing later, they can then make it more targeted. And also we are I hope next year early we are enabling people to bring their own data. If you have your PDF from your doctor already or whatnot, you could bring that data in and use it to make the product better. So we're trying to build all those modalities, and there's of course a lot of not easy to do, because if you bring your own data, then you could accidentally bring wrong values and we give you wrong product.
Sure.
It's nutrition, so it's not like medication, but it's still a risk that we need to mitigate and be very careful about. So the key things we test today are the same things that you get when you go to a concierge doctor. You would go to some of these more expensive private doctors. So we test your lipid panel, we look at your A1C, the marker for the blood sugar, inflammation, homocysteine, that is a key indicator for my wife, for example, on her health. And then vitamin D, vitamin B, iron. Those are the ones that we always want to look first, because they are all really important factors that are telling a lot about your health. Of course, there are many, many more, like ApoP, LP small a, that are really good indicators of heart health, and everybody should test those. I hope we can add those soon. But there's a challenge that when you take blood at home, you have a certain amount of blood you can collect, and you have the payload, how many tests you can do from it.
Yeah.
So if we do more testing, then we need to do more, collect more blood,
Right.
and it becomes more difficult for people to do. So that's always a balancing act today. And we also want to do testosterone. We also want to do the thyroid hormone for women. Those are the things that I think you want to know, and they will give you a really good overall view of your health. And if you do that every 6 months, I think you can take a lot of surprise away from your health.
Yeah.
And I think okay, you had a question about the kind of protein and the sugar. So we're living in this world, and I'm culprit, guilty. I'm involved in companies who use keto diet to help people heal, like the diabetes, for example. The Verda is using keto diet.
Yep.
I've been in that mode many years myself, and I still eat very low carb. But I think we have taken this sort of a fear of carbs a bit too far. And I mean, you look at the blue zones, you look at the Okinawa, Sardinia, Loma Linda. The people eat actually a lot of slow carbs in the form of vegetables and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily bad.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think if you eat keto, I don't think you're going to live 100 years old.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
nobody will like it, because you're going to have other issues that come with it, because the lipid panel, they will likely go higher up because you can eat keto as bacon and eggs every morning and lunch and dinner, and you will likely die pretty young. Or you can only eat meat, and some people like it, but long term I won't bet on that one. So you need to have like this sort of a holistic diet that we ate maybe 1,000 years ago that might be actually quite good for you. So if you go too far, you could do far. So we decided to let people make a call. So if you buy the protein today, even if so we collect all your wearable device data. If you are willing to give it to us, many people do. So for example, I use a tracker when I go bike ride, tracker when I go surf, tracker when I go rock climb. And that is then telling Elo what I have done in my body. We also see my sleep data, we see my recovery. So the protein is always designed every month based on what I have done. And also my goals there. And I can talk with my coach and my dietitian that, what is my next month goal, so they can blend it based on that. And if I want, I can only have protein and maybe electrolytes and supplements, but automatically we do often recommend people carbs.
Okay.
We use low carbs as a fuel if you want to recover. You need carbs. I mean, it's just a fact
Absolutely.
of life.
Yep.
And then how we sweeten things today, we use monk fruit and
Okay.
we use stevia. And we have built this blend where we have only now, I think, 30% stevia and the rest is monk fruit. And it is very, very close to sugar if you think
Okay.
about the taste.
Yeah.
And I love monk fruit myself because it's really powerful. And we don't need to use a lot of it.
Right.
And I've been testing this for 2 years now. I can attest that your blood sugar will not rise at all if you are taking the one with no carbs in, even it's sweetened properly. And we spent the last 6 months now redoing our flavoring for chocolate and vanilla. And we found really nice vanilla from Madagascar. We found a really nice dark chocolate flavor. And I think they are now quite good. I mean, I'm very picky,
Yeah.
but I really like what we did because the team spent a lot of time on this and we got the sweetness now right. And soon I think we're also going to be introducing a way where you have an app, Elo app, and I hope soon you can also change the sweetness level or the intensity level on the app. So you can just say like I want to have less, more. So it's really
Cool.
personalized to you. And
Cool.
every bag we do it's hand backed. Like every pill pack is packed for you, the right pills for you. Every protein is hand packed for you. There's no other bag like that in the world. It's
Yeah.
always made to order.
This is like
Cool.
absolutely the future of healthcare.
I know, it's like breaking my brain how cool that is.
Even when you're just talking about customizing the sweetness, that's so funny because
Yeah.
I told my husband one time because, we bought a protein powder and it was sweetened with monk fruit, which I don't like the aftertaste of monk fruit. And it also had some stevia in it. And I said, I wish I could order this with just the stevia. I mean, I like monk fruit for what it is and what it does. I just don't like the aftertaste of it. It's like a personal taste preference.
Yeah.
I was like, I wish I could just order this. Like, it doesn't need to be this sweet. I don't want it to be that sweet. I just want to put it in a smoothie and I don't need it to taste super sweet. I just want the protein from it. So I love the idea of the customizable where that actually, I was just kind of having this, I'm not so much of the entrepreneur where I'm going to go out and then create a company that does that. But I take that and I'm like, I wish I had a company that I could just tell them like, hey, the next order of protein powder you give me, cut out all that extra monk fruit. I don't need it.
Ari is that man for us.
You are
If we
that
want to
person.
create a business. I did it. I created it.
Yeah.
And I think I love a point, but there's also one thing because I had this same thinking about looking at the stevia, and stevia often has this sort of metallic smell and a metallic aftertaste, and it's quite powerful at times.
Yeah.
And we had that in last year when we had the first iteration of the protein, and I went to a few flavor houses, these companies who only build flavors, and we went to one of these labs in a way, and they had like 25 different stevias there, and I think we found something like Crep A or no Crep something Crep N or whatever, like one of the brand new ones, and it completely had no metallic taste at all.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
same with the monk fruit. I think you often have this, you have a concept in your brain that came from maybe overusing or using some type of a product, and these flavors have been evolving, and there are many of them. It's not one, but you often get this sort of feeling, oh, I don't like it because I had a bad taste here and there. But then what we have today is completely different than you would expect, probably. You can't. If I can do a sugar version for you, you won't see the difference. You won't feel the difference.
Sure.
Except that your blood sugar won't rise.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. Cool.
This is really cool.
I love this kind of discussion of the future of healthcare that we're getting into. What we discussed at the beginning, this idea of biohacking and the biohacking community and how to bring that to the masses. I always like to give our listeners something they can do today, with the information that they're learning on the podcast. So how do we make this level of really biohacking available to the masses? And what does it look like for people who participate in the program today?
I mean, what does it cost?
Yeah. What is it, if you don't mind sharing that information, what does it cost? What does the time commitment look like? Because I want our listeners hearing this to be able to say, okay, cool, that's something I want to sign up for. Or, Ari says 5 years from now, it'll be more accessible and I'll wait for that kind of a thing. So tell us what you're doing to bring it to the masses, how it can be brought to the masses, and what it looks like to be part of it today if people want to be.
Yeah, I think the first biohacker word, I don't know who coined the term, but I was pulled into the world when I was working at Nokia on the step counter. And I realized this, I was looking for people, like, is this a common thing people know about and think? And I found groups of people who were, some of them looked very weird. Some of them were basically the same people who I had met in the early video game, like, very dark and metal music and a lot of, piercings and tattoos and whatever, like very hacker type of crew. And then I went to the first, biohacker event, maybe, I don't know, 17 years ago. One of the early ones, there were like a few hundred people, and people had like implants. They had like a USB stick implanted in their skin, and it's pretty badass. Like I was like, this is pretty crazy. I don't want to be implanting stuff on my face, metal, whatever. And then that was kind of what the biohacker, thing started from. And you mentioned the Aura ring, which is an interesting point because that ring was like a very prominent product in that early group. The first ring was really big and bulky. And now it's, of course, sleek and beautiful, but it took about 10 years to get there. And it took them for a long time to go out of that biohacker realm into our fingers, normal people's fingers, because the biohacker group is like this sort of kind of scary.
They're hardcore.
And I don't think anyone wants to be a biohacker, per se. So I don't really like
the lots of money. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't use the word myself because, I mean, it should be more just about this sort of idea that we think about the future. We think about the next 30 years or 20 years. How old are you and how long you want to live a good life? And we talk about more like health span, not lifespan, but health span, like how many good years you have left. We don't want to be a decade lying on a bed in tubes. That won't be really good life. But the good life is like when you can go out and do things with your family, with your children, with your friends, and do things you love to do. I mean, maybe we love to hike, or we love to do something. And I love to do I climb big rocks and do badass stuff like that. But that I want to do that when I'm 70. I hope I can. And I have to really invest time today to be able to do that in maybe 25, 30 years.
Right.
So that was the idea at Elo. Like, can we build a product for the people who are thinking like that, who are looking for the future? They are willing to invest time and money into having good life in the long term. And that's not everybody today. Many people would like to do it, but they are not doing it because they have no time. Maybe they don't have the money to spend, or they just don't. But I think many people would love to do it. It would be easier. So at Elo, we've been thinking a lot about this, like how do we build products that will be leading the innovation and make them really cool. Like I've been trying to kind of give you some tidbits. And I think they are kind of cool what we have done. But the price point also is a challenge. Like, how do we get the price point to be relatively low? And, you have some services who are like, I have a friend who runs a doctor clinic. You pay $100,000 a year to be his patient every year. And, he has a 5-year wait list.
Gosh.
So there are people who want to pay $100K a year and, to get the best treatment in the world. And I mean, he's one of the best doctors in the world probably. And you will likely live 10 years longer if you pay that $100K a year. Likely. Not guaranteed, but likely. Wow. So we're not going to be that expensive. And we decided that, we try to go into this sort of a market where the supplement product, for example, where we do blood testing every 6 months. We give you the dietitian access and we give you supplements sent to you every month, $99 a month. So it felt like $99 is a lot of money, but it's not like inhibitively high cost.
Right. I think that's very affordable.
Yes.
And then the protein we priced at $59, and that also gives you access to a coach if you want to ask questions. You can't do Zoom sessions, but you can talk on the phone whenever you want. So that felt like a price point that is again pretty high, but it's not like inhibitively high. If you think about like a good quality product, we also give you that is pure tested, and our whey protein is 5 times more expensive than the whey protein you buy in the normal TNC tumbler.
Yeah, because if that would get rid of all my other supplements, I definitely spend more than $169 a month on supplements. Definitely. So if that would wash all my need for the other ones away, that's an easy choice.
And that includes supplements and blood testing, like that price point. Wow. Yeah, because what I always like to remind our listeners, when we talk about Because probably as a nutritionist, one of the things I hear the most is, well, buying good quality food is expensive. And I like to remind people, well, being sick is way more expensive.
Real expensive.
Way more expensive. Yep. I mean, I know what the bills look like for a quadruple bypass open heart surgery and for cancer treatment. I mean, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a world we're living in which a minimum of about a third of the people are going to get cancer. So it's way more expensive to be sick. I think what becomes difficult for people is you're investing in the future. And so people are like, well, I'd rather save the money now, right? They don't want to spend the money now to be healthy in the future because the future feels far away. And I think everybody is built with this sense of I'll deal with it when I come to it. But really the idea is investing now so that you have those extra years, like you said, of actually enjoying life. And we've talked about that in podcasts too, health span versus lifespan. And I like that you referenced that because we had an episode where we talked about the potential of living to 120 years and how many people hear that and are like, well, I don't want to live that long, because what they're picturing is living as this decrepit, mindless sad, vegetable, right? But what I'm talking about is the health span of living these rich, vibrant, healthy years doing, like you said, Ari, of hiking with your family or rock climbing or riding your bicycle or camping or doing whatever that looks like to you and enjoying life. Cool. So I would readily invest money in having that kind of a future. So I think the price point, it's exactly what you said. For some people, it might be out of the realm of possibility right now, but it's not cost prohibitive for a lot of people, especially if what you're doing is replacing your current supplements. And frankly, doctor's bills are expensive too, if you're going to go see a doctor. So
and I love the point because, I often say this to people that one of the surprise to me coming from Europe to the US is that we have 120 million people today who are eating supplement pills every morning or every afternoon. 120 million people, and none of them know if they take the right ones or the wrong ones.
Right.
None of them have any fundamental knowledge. It wasn't a doctor prescription. They listened to podcasts like this, or they read a book, or their friend told them about something. And when we get people to our side, we always ask them what they are doing today. And many times, if not the most times, we tell people to stop doing something they do today because it's harmful. And we have this very interesting data point on the blood biomarkers, especially related to vitamin D and vitamin B12. Because we have people who are way too low, and we know those people, they need to do something. But we have also a group of people, maybe 15-20%, who are way too high, and they've been supplementing like overdosing for many years. And that is not good. We don't know really in science like whether that will do real harm. I mean, the B vitamins you pee out, but the vitamin D could be as a fat soluble, could be actually negative for your health. And we have had people who are like off the values. We like, it goes so high that our devices can't give it a value, and we're like, well, what are I doing? Like then they're like, I get 50,000 IU vitamin D twice a day or twice a week. I'm like, come on, like that's like a treatment in a hospital. But you can actually go to Amazon, I believe, and you can buy 50,000 IU capsule of vitamin D. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like you normally need like 2,000. That's like 20 times the dosing. Like what the hell?
I recommend those high doses only very much on the short term. We just talked about it in a podcast where I said 3 days max, and it's when you're sick. So for people to do something like that regularly, and at the very least, even if it's not harming your health, you're wasting your money.
Right.
Yeah. And vitamin B is funny. Like a lot of people are doing IVs now in like New York and LA and San Francisco, and
I've seen that.
They take IV. Like it's fun to maybe good to do it like when you are getting sick or at a certain time, but you don't want to do it every day.
Right.
Like come on,
right?
That's a silly.
Yes.
So I think people are just like not knowing, and at least what we're trying to do at Elo, like can we bring some sense into this world? And everything we do is, and we have PhDs and real scientists, real doctors who have vetted every program we do. When you go to the Elo app, it will tell you if you get a product or we recommend you a product, it tells you what is the scientific literature where it's based. You can read the studies then and there. We try to make it evident. We have most supplements, even like NAD and others, MNR, we don't offer them today because there's not enough or any human studies yet. We haven't taken any in vitro or any mice studies or monkey or dog studies, and none of those products are available at Elo because like they might work. I mean, a lot of people believe in it. I take some of them, but I'm not willing to give, thousands of people products that, there's no scientific evidence.
It's a big
We are
experiment.
already doing too many things to test people. Like many people became biohackers really because they're testing stuff that, we maybe have tested on mice or in a spectritis. So that's a worrisome thing to me. And I think once we go forward and, there will be many, many, many companies, I hope, like Elo, who are taking this data and then helping you to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And I mean, many people spend already money on supplements, like you said, more than $100 a month. Many people do that. And like half the people are taking supplements daily. So people spend on average about $45. And often they do it for low quality or the wrong things.
Yeah.
But if you think about the food, we spend far more on food, everybody. And the food is, I think, once we get to the optimization or helping people navigate the food system better, it might not cost any more.
Sure.
But it's just people
food.
have these habits. Yeah, so people have habits, and because we buy really good food at our home. We mainly buy from farms directly, whatnot. And we spend $20,000 a year or $30,000 a year on food. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But everybody is spending thousands of dollars a year on food. And yes, the food has been increasing in price with the inflation. I think it's painful, and it's I can really see the price difference. But still today, the food is lowest price ever in the history of people. Like food has never been this, because we used to spend like 20% on food of our income. And now we spend like, 5%.
Yep.
So
we shared that stat before.
Unbelievably cheap today.
Yeah.
So we complain about it, but at the same time, if we believe, as we do in the call right now, that it is so important for our health, like you can spend maybe $100 more a month, and you could maybe live 10 years longer.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we've actually shared that stat before on this podcast, because it was talking about really what we pay for food it's not food. I mean, it's this ultra processed junk.
Quantity created.
Yeah. And then, the reason it's only 5% of our paycheck now is because it's hardly got anything real in it. You pay money for real food because it actually nourishes your body. That's what it's meant to do. If you're not doing it already, my suggestion for your food finder is to help people find local farmers too, as part of it, to get their food from, because I know for me, that's a huge thing. Is like we buy most of our food, the majority of our food, we either grow it ourselves in our backyard, or we buy it directly from a farmer. I mean, all of our meat comes directly from a farmer, and then you're not susceptible to things happening at the grocery store, right? To things being out of stock, to disruptions to the food chain, because all of your food is coming from a local source. So if that's not already something you're planning for the food part of the app, I think that would be a really cool thing to add in, is helping connect people to local suppliers of the foods that they need so they can buy directly, because you do save money. Honestly, you do. I mean, when we buy meat in bulk, like we do from a farmer, when we buy a half cow share or a hog, you save a lot of money because the price per pound goes way down. Anyway, that's my suggestion for your food finder.
Super cool. Okay, so is Elo, if I'm like gathering this all right, is Elo available right now for people to do this, or are you guys still like kind of growing it, or where is it at today?
We're available with the supplement testing, the coaching program in the whole country, and the protein also available. Only thing we can't do yet is the testing in New York. New York State has a very difficult regulation on at-home testing, and I hope we can finally kind of overcome that next year. But it's been 2 years in the making already.
Wow.
So it takes a long time to get the system in place that you can actually do it there. Nobody can really operate in New York today.
Yeah.
If you think about home testing of blood. And we have a really interesting new product coming out in October this year. I can't really go into details, but it's really reinventing the way how we're going to deliver people nutrients. And many people, they don't like taking pills. especially if you talk about like 5 or more pills a day. So we're going to build a new modality for that will be actually 3D printed in a new way and edible. So it will be really, really cool. But more about that in about a month. I can't yet talk too much about it.
Cool. I can't wait
Wow.
to find out more about that.
You have been a busy man the last few years doing a lot of things.
How do people find out more about Elo if they want to participate in it? Where should they go?
Easiest is to go to the website elo.health, not .com, but elo.health. And Elo means, by the way, in my native Finnish, it means life. So Elo is life. So it's also the Electric Lighting Orchestra, a great band from from the 80s, but not everybody knows that. And it's also Elo is also the chess algorithm. Elo score is the way how you rank players in chess. So it means few things, but Elo.health is our website, and you can buy the products there. And I think we always have some offers for people who are coming first time for the first month to learn about, try it out, and we love for feedback. I mean, we are really trying to build something that could be applicable to millions of people, and it takes a long time to build something that is working properly. So we added the coaching, we added we changed the way the blood testing works. We're doing a lot of modifications because people feedback. So please send a note, and I'm easy to find. Ari Tulla, if you Google my name, I think I'm the first 50 pages. So I don't think there's anyone with my name in the world. So I'm the easier to find than most people.
Wow, this is wild. There is such a when I first heard of your product of we could biotest you and then we give you supplements, in my mind, I'm like, it's such a huge scope of an undertaking. I'm like, well, how would you know it's right for you? How do I know that the product is quality and the nutrition you're giving is actually quality? But hearing you talk about it being tested and how it's the technology and the AI and all of it, I'm like, oh my word, this really is as much of a miracle as my brain can't understand. That's really cool.
But you had a question earlier, sorry, I think I didn't answer it. But that's a really good point. And let me just iterate briefly, because I think nobody could do this alone. I mean, we are basically taking a task of being we are creating products. We're actually finding and sourcing raw materials. Like I talked about the monk fruit. We talk with people who make monk fruit. And then you go all the way into, how do we collect the blood? How do we build the blood testing kit in a proper way it works? And then we have to think about the scientific model. How do we build a brain that can understand your information in a context and then provide you the right recommendation and then send that out? So there's a lot of moving pieces. And we decided in the very beginning that, our swim lane, where we play is really we call it Elo Brain. So we are building the AI model, and I have spent about 3 years now to go around the world and meeting different companies and trying to find partners. So we have 5 partners today who actually make the products. So we don't have a factory of grinding C vitamin, for example. We work with the most reputable people in the world, and we found amazing partners who are able to do products in this unique manner, because every product Elo has is made to order for you, and it comes in a bag with your name on. So if I saw the protein, for example, so the first thing you see on the back is basically your name. So it is absolutely it's made to you 2 days before or 1 day before you get it.
Wow.
So it's not only and many people can have personalized products, and they maybe have 15 different versions, and then they put a sticker with your name on top.
Right.
And that's a very common way of beauty and cosmetics, hair products or whatever you have now. But we actually decided to make these made to order uniquely to you only. And that is really hard to find people who can do it. There's only a few companies in the world who have that ability.
Right.
And now we're growing together with those. And I don't think you need to be that specific. But I mean, if you can do it, then it opens up the world where you can actually do some things like the flavor profiling or the intensity or the sweetness. You can actually do that because you don't have 100,000 bags sitting in a warehouse.
Right.
We have 100,000 empty bags sitting in a warehouse that we're going to then back by hand when you make an order.
Right.
So that is the uniqueness about this. and then it becomes more real in a way. It becomes more like you go to the farmer's market or to the farm and you're picking the carrots that you like or the blueberries. It becomes more kind of artisanal, and keeps me honest as a CEO, as a founder. Like, how do we build the product? Because you give me feedback, I can go back to the line and we can talk about what was done. And even like here in the back, there's a name of the person who backed it. We know that this is big Abel was doing this back, and there's like 100 people who are backing this. But there's a name, like we have accountability level who backed the product.
That is great. I feel like I'm such a simple Iowa girl. Like even when computers came out, I'm slow to jump on all this kind of stuff. And this feels so forward thinking. It like I need to take a moment to like let it settle in my brain. It's really quite astounding and really neat.
Well, I love the idea of it, and I think for all of our listeners, if the future we've described in this episode, this future of healthcare sounds appealing to you, then be one of the first investors, right? Come, I think
Sure, yep.
Check out the company, see if it's a good fit for you, because the more we can support the forward thinkers, the more we support forward thinking. And that helps reshape the healthcare system. And so if you are listening today and you have ever felt in your life like the healthcare system is lacking or is broken or hasn't helped you, then the way you change that is you vote with your dollars and you invest in the people who are doing it right, because that is what makes it more accessible to the masses. Is the more people that buy into it, the more accessible it becomes, the more affordable it becomes, because they have the volume they need to support the production without having to have a really high cost from the customer. So I think it's a totally cool concept. So I encourage anybody
totally
who's listening, whose interest is piqued, to at least go check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. And that's what I do, is I try and support the people who are doing it right, the companies I like, the small businesses, the local farmers. I do that in order to invest in the future for our kids, because we're creating their world today with our dollars.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the shout out, and I think you're so right about the fact that and you guys know the nutrition world better than I do, and the fact that it's so noisy.
Yeah.
There's so many people shouting. There's so many products out there every day, new ones. And there are a lot of good companies, but there are also a lot of people who are building another flavor of the same old that is not going to help us to be any better.
Right.
And it's really hard to get the word out. You can only have so much space on like TikTok or Instagram or whatever.
Right.
And that's why I love to do podcast, because it's great to talk to people. And I can't explain the whole Elo story in a 15-second TikTok video.
Right.
Right.
I can tell one thing, but in this format, I think we can kind of go deeper. And I'm trying to really be a catalyst myself for more and more people to get to work in things like health and nutrition. And many people, they love making video games, and they ask me about how do I get to work in that field that you worked for a long time and made a big impact. So for me, that's a great question. But also, like, why do you like, if you have an opening in a video game company today, you might have 150 people applying every role, or 2,000 people, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have a role opening in in a healthcare company, you might have like 5 people applying for a role.
Right.
So we need the great brains to work in these fundamental big problems that are, I think the one is this, fact that we are getting sicker, heavier all the time. We are not living as long as, our parents might have. That's a very unique time. And we need good brains to help on this. It's fixable, but not simple.
Right.
We also have the big problem with the environment that you alluded already a little bit, that we need to do something about the fact that we are polluting the world too badly for our kids and their grandkids, or their kids and so forth. We need to do something about it. It's our time to do it.
Yeah.
We are in charge, not somebody else. Like, you can't look in a mirror that somebody else will do it. You have to do it. And then lastly, of course, I think we are just very divided. Not only the US, but in globally. People are feeling bad, and most people. It's really the cycle. Like, are you sick? Are you getting sick? Are you getting overweight, obese because of, you are eating. No, I think it's more about stress in the
Yeah.
end. It's all about in the mind. If you can fix your head and, find something that, makes a difference for you. And, why I talk about this, I will talk earlier on today, is that, I have a kind of mission in life, but it's not like given. I mean, I'm lying to myself to believe in the stuff I told. And that's why I have a kind of goal in life. It's like a religion, like, it's just this sort of a masterful lie in a way that
Yeah.
we believe in, and that makes us be better humans. But you can tell your own narrative to yourself. And in the end, it's kind of maybe black and white to say it, but it's about I'm really good at lying to myself and motivating myself and finding meaning in things. And that helps me to be, I wake up in the morning, I'm super excited every morning. I really love what I do every day.
Yeah.
And I think about that almost the most. My screensaver says here, what is the most important thing today? And that's how I live my life every moment.
Yeah.
I love it.
That.
I just heard on Andrew Huberman. Do you watch Andrew Huberman? He's so,
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, of course, he's amazing. Anyway, he just had a guest on that said happiness is the people who are the most happy have agency and gratitude, and I feel like you have full agency of all like the things in life that you can affect for the better, which is really, really cool. And then also a grateful heart with it too is really neat. But
Absolutely.
okay, wait. I have another. I feel like we're wrapping up, but I still have so many questions, so I'm just gonna like shoot them at you here. Number one, I think the Elo, the coolest part is that you're getting it to the masses, but you're getting it to the masses for the individual like bio needs, which is super cool and like can like blow up my brain. It's so cool. Oh gosh, what was my question? Oh, with Elo, is it fully nutrition? Or is it also lifestyle? Can like the brain of Elo kind of also be like, and you need to walk a little more, or you need to quit smoking, or is it just strictly like what your biometrics are like? You need more vitamin B or more protein, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And like I already said that, in my belief, it will start from the brain, and sleep is very important, recovery, movement, and being in nature. You don't need to, but if you sit all day long, you could get sick. But if you even walk, you don't need to run or go fast. Be outside, move. And we decided that what we do, and I think you said it well already. It's very difficult what we do. There's a lot of moving pieces, and we have to pick the swim lane what we do, which is the brain development and building this system. And then if we go beyond the nutrition lens, so I use glasses, so I put the glasses on. My glasses and lens is always about nutrition. It's about that is the viewpoint I look at the world. I look at you and your data. Somebody else like Aura will look at from recovery,
The sleep and
sleep, and then somebody else will look at from other, like Whoop will look at more from the perspective of like activity and performance.
yeah.
So we just need to kind of pick our battle.
Yes.
And I mean, of course, when you have a coach, I mean, like my coach at Elo is a lead dietitian in one of the top university programs for sports, who was helping thousands of people to get the NHL and NFL and NBA and elsewhere. And he was helping all those athletes. And now he's at Elo helping people like me. I mean, if I ask him about something that is about, training related, I get the feedback. But that's not inbuilt in the system in a way that and I think it's important to think about this. And why I love the Aura, I mean, they're from my hometown in Finland. I know the guys for 30 years, so that's why I got involved early on. And I've been often there, when they were making the early decisions and saw how they made them. And they made the decision, for example, that this ring, it does not have a light or LED. It does not have a motor to vibrate. There were many other companies who added a vibra because it was kind of cool to have it in your finger and it could wake you up. But none of that worked because it is the best thing about this is the battery lasts 7 days and it is ambient. It is there for you and it looks kind of cool, but you don't need to do anything. You don't need to look at the data if you don't want. They are not bugging you. They nudge you a little bit like, hey, maybe you're going to go sleep earlier because we can dwell on this an hour or no more. But, in sleep, only thing that works, only thing is to go sleep earlier. And that's the only thing that, scientifically works. Yes, you need to have the right environment. You can take a hot shower, you can do the sauna, you take the magnesium. I do many of those things. But if you go sleep an hour earlier, like I did last night, I was really tired. I had a long day with partners. I was like really tired. I went to sleep at 10. I woke up 6 this morning. I felt amazing.
Yeah.
1 hour earlier, and I feel much better. So that's just the kind of the point that, at Elo also, we are really trying to be, and many people, like when we tested new ideas, and they come to us and say, it's not your task, your job at Elo to tell me what to do. Give me the tools.
Yes.
Help me when I need help, but don't tell me what to do.
True.
So in some points, they tell me what to eat, what nutrition to have, what kind of pills to eat. Tell me that, and tell me when to take them exactly. I'll do it. Tell me when to take the protein. Like we automatically remind you after workouts that you need to take 1 scoop or 2 scoops or no scoops. We do that automatically, and many people love that. But even that we have to do subtly because it's up to us. We own this body. This is my temple.
Yes.
And if I do too much, then I think I'm going to alienate the people who really care about this.
Yeah,
so it's a really tough thing. And I've been crafting and building, many, many, many products over the years. And you always have to work together with the users and the members and really listen to them. And don't do the thing you think is right, but do the thing that they think is right.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Makes
giving
sense.
the feedback is helpful, but when you tell someone what to do, that's like me. It's like, don't tell me what to do. Then I'm going to burn the house down.
I was going to say, you don't like that.
Don't tell me what to do. But you're right. If you give me feedback and some scientific data, then I can figure it out myself that I feel smarter. I feel empowerment. I feel ownership. Now I'm going to do it. Oh, that's good psychology. I like it.
And think about like one example that's really interesting that, I was in a meeting almost 20 years ago when we were building the first, the smartphone or type of smartphone at Nokia. And we were in this meeting. I was like just listening. I wasn't really involved too much, but it came up that okay, we have this new experience that came. There's like the first time email came to phone, and the team was like talking about casual, like, okay, how should we do it? Like SMS was about to be invented, and SMS they decided that every time you get an SMS there will be a sound. Because it was like this sort of unique way to communicate, and we need to kind of let you know about it. And then the discussion went on, and okay, what do we do with email? Are we going to do a sound or not? And the person or the designer, the lead, whatever, was like with a lot of empathy that no, I don't think we're going to do a sound for the email because it's not really that immediate, not related to the phone so much. It can be multiple devices. And this was a long time ago, and they decided that no sound for email. And if they would have decided sound for email, we would probably have it still today. iPhones bling every time you get an email.
All day. Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, like that would be a really bad experience.
Right.
And so that it's just like this empathy we have, and we need to have every day when we think about building anything new for other people than you. Like it will start always from the empathy. Like what are the people feeling? What is the right thing to do for them?
So smart. So smart. It is true. Even with my Apple Watch and my steps, the steps I check myself, and I'm like kind of addicted to it. But my watch will tell me to stand up, and then I'm mad about it. It's like, one more stand for your stand goal, and I'm like, how do I turn this off? And I don't know how. I mean, I should ask my husband. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I'm annoyed when it tells me. But anyway, yeah.
That's why I like the Oura Ring, because I check in
when you want to.
When I want to, I check in, and especially, I mean, my daughter is 12 weeks old now, or she just turned 3 months actually. And I was a little bit annoyed with the Oura Ring just because I was like, it was telling me how bad my sleep was, and I'm like, I'm glad this isn't sending me notifications or telling me to move when I'm sitting on the couch with my daughter sleeping on me. Like, I can't.
I'm not moving.
That's what I liked about it, is I was like, yeah, I'll check in when I want to, but right now I'm in a different phase of my life, so I don't want you barking at me to stand up and move every hour. Well, anyway, we want to respect your time and make sure you get out of here when you need to, but This has been such a fun conversation. I have loved
Yes, my brain hurts. I'm going to go think about it.
dreaming about the future of healthcare with you. And so thank you so much, Ari, for your time today. And
Yes.
we've really appreciated having you on. This was cool. This was exciting.
So what a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your contribution to the world and your future contribution as these next couple years come out and this becomes more of like a household name. It's really neat. So thank you, Ari. It was really good to meet you.
Hey, thank you so much for having and great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our listeners, make sure to check out elo.health. And, thanks for listening and
go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!